Hey folks, my name is Jürgen, aka Nerd and Proud of It, and Destiny has brought you to my channel today to check out my complete conversation with Brenda Maddocks, wife and business manager of MTG artist Anson Maddocks. I already released videos with bits and parts of that complete conversation, but today you get to enjoy the whole thing. I hope you like it. There is still some stuff in here that has not been shown in the single or shorter videos, and I think these things are very interesting and very fun to listen to as well. The video does contain timestamps, so you can easily jump to the parts you are interested in and you can easily find those. I also want to thank Brenda for her time and giving me the opportunity to actually talk to her, which was really nice, and I really enjoyed. I think she's a wonderful person. She's very nice and kind, not only in this conversation, but in every email leading up to this conversation and after we had our chat. So thanks a lot, Brenda. It was great to talk to you, and I think you made some really interesting points. Folks, there it goes, the full video. Let me know in the comments if you enjoy it. I definitely enjoyed making it, so I hope you do. But I think it would be nice to start with like a short introduction who I am talking to. So yeah, maybe that's a good starting point, right?
Okay. Well, my name is Brenda Maddocks, and I'm Anson Maddocks' wife and business manager. And he is, of course, one of the original 25 alpha artists for Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, I think most people know about him and his work, and I think people who have been to the shows you and him attended know you very well as well, because I heard in our previous chat that you are seeking out the community quite a lot, right?
Yeah. Of course, it's we love engaging with the people that make what we do possible, and I I feel like the old school community in particular are the best of the best. You know, they're a really great, interesting group of people. Just one-on-one individually, I really enjoy the players and collectors, and so yeah, we try to attend old school, you know, some of the smaller, more intimate events, more than say like the big GPs, or I'm sorry, they're not called that, the Magic Fest now, but
They changed the name, yeah. But the smaller and more intimate events are normally the nicer ones anyway. So I think that's that's a good choice there. We chatted previously as well, and you gave me a little impression on how Anson got into Magic the Gathering and the people he first met. Maybe it's nice to summarize that as well, especially that story on the in school where he met. I believe it was Mark, right?
Marketing, yes.
I really love that story. I thought that was really cool, especially as a Star Wars fan. Little spoiler.
Okay, I'll start there then, because I think that, well, Anson grew up in Sitka, Alaska, and he met Mark Tedin in the second grade on the playground. I, as I've heard it told, Mark Tedin was wearing a long sleeve Star Wars t-shirt, and he came up to Anson and he told him, "Shoot my arm," and Anson was kind of confused. He says, "You know, hey, shoot my arm," and so he had his sleeve filled with a bunch of pebbles and gravel. And so when Anson went like that, Mark released all these rocks and made it look like his arm disintegrated. And Anson said as soon as that happened, he knew they were going to be great friends. And they have been ever since, to this day. So they developed their drawing skills together. They had this sort of friendly competition. They would draw, and and then try and outdo each other. So when one gains some new skill level, they share it with each other and then try and outdo each other. And so that
The other
went a lot
to keep up.
Yeah. So
That's a perfect way to advance your skills.
absolutely.
And I think that story is fantastic. It's so cool that it goes way back. I know that piece of artwork hanging behind you, and I made a video about that one as well, and we talked about it. I think it's fantastic, but they made it together, right?
Yes, that's a collaborative piece that they did in, I think it was 95.
I believe it says 95
Yeah.
on the bottom as well. Is it the only piece they did together, and for the rest they were like in competition, or did they do more pieces together?
They actually, I'm not sure how much of this I'm supposed to divulge, but they, during that time that Magic started, Anson was prolific. He was creating an amazing amount of work, and Mark too. And so I've heard that they worked on stuff together, like in coffee shops and stuff like that. And there were some paintings where they maybe would help each other with backgrounds and things like that.
Fair. I think that's how it always happens. So yeah, just put one each other's name on it, and it's all good. No, I get you. And did Anson, of course, did a lot of artwork in the beginning, and Alpha, Beta, Unlimited. I mean, even one of or some of my favorite pieces of his art are from Antiquities, of course, as well. What was do you know on the top of your head what was the last time he did something for Magic the Gathering, some art? It's been quite a while, right?
I think Null Rod maybe was in Weatherlight. That would have been the last piece he did.
Very cool piece as well.
He was both Mark and Anson left Sitka, Alaska, and Anson went to school in Anchorage, and Mark went somewhere further away in the Midwest or something like that. And Anson was going to study. I think he was thinking of medicine even, but he was paying his own way through school. And so
with his artwork.
Yeah, it got really expensive, and he ended up coming to Seattle and then going to Cornish College of the Arts. And he was doing, had his toes in a lot of different things. He was just basically a starving artist. He said that was really good for him to have to struggle. It helped his ability to produce things. And so he basically was working for the Seattle Weekly. He was painting a lot of like leather jackets for bands. He was working in a secondhand store, and just doing a lot of different things. And that's when he met Jesper first at Cornish, and Jesper was already working for Wizards of the Coast, and he told Anson that
he was the art director at a certain point, right in the beginning, right?
Yes, that's true. That's true. And Jesper thought that Anson's style would complement with what they were doing well, and so he asked him to draw a creature, and he gave it to Jesper, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to show it to him. I think he'll work well." So that's how he started working on Talismana, which is a role-playing game, and he was illustrating that, and so already working for Wizards of the Coast when Magic was first introduced, or they said, "We've got this new project and a new game," and Jesper kept telling Anson, "It's going to be big, it's going to be great." And Anson's that, as an artist, you kind of hear that every time every project thinks they're going to be the next big thing. So he took it with a grain of salt, admittedly, and then of course was completely blown away by how successful it was. And so yeah, it turned out to be a really great thing for him.
Definitely. The rest is history, I think. It exploded in 94, of course, end of 93, beginning of 94. And I remember holding these pieces with Anson's art in my hands for the first time as a kid in an LGS. And everybody loved it. It was crazy, but that's very cool to get a little impression on how he got into everything, because we all know his art, but the background stories, that is always what fascinates me, I think. I would be very curious as well. A lot of his art, of course, is in the first few sets, and we talked about it before, and I think our main talking point today is the 30th anniversary edition, which contains, of course, a lot of the old art, basically old beta artwork. And I think you mentioned it's like 30 pieces of Anson's art in there, right? Or even more. It's a lot.
Yeah, 30. So he did a full 10% of the first edition.
10% of the first edition. That's a massive amount of artwork. But we got to talk about this. And I remember when people were saying, like, yeah, there is no chance the artists didn't know about the 30th anniversary edition coming. And you got some interesting insights, of course, and then we got to talk, and we thought, like, yeah, maybe it's interesting to share these insights with others as well, and that's why we had the idea to record this video. But how did you both get to know about the 30th anniversary edition?
So we found out about it the same way everybody else did when we saw the video them announcing it on YouTube. So we had no prior knowledge at all. They didn't contact us or communicate with us about it, and that's true for all the artists I've spoken to. Nobody knew.
And you still have contact with a lot of them, because you all are friends, like at least like the core group of artists, right?
Sure. I mean, obviously, not everybody, all of the artists, but yeah, a good portion. So it was pretty surprising that they didn't. Yeah. And for us, well, it's a little bit different. I feel like, well, they're not obligated to tell us beforehand to discuss things like they're going to use our art in a product. They have the right to do that without asking us permission.
Okay.
But in our case, I'm sorry, I could pass that. I'm just not sure how to talk about the legal stuff, as far as...
Well, you don't have to talk about the legal stuff at all if you don't want to. I think it's better, especially looking at Wizards of the Coast and what they are doing at the moment, and how they are doubling down on legal issues. So no worries at all. But yeah, you obviously didn't know about it. They didn't tell you, and they're not obliged to. But in general, it's kind of strange that they didn't inform the artists about the fact that they were using a lot of their artwork, right? I believe normally it would be like even a courtesy to tell you guys about the reprint of the set before. And I assume when it happened, you always knew when the things were reprinted, right?
Sure. I mean, yeah, Anson definitely did. It was sort of out of the blue and really surprising for us. I mean, I just to learn about it at the same time as the general public was a bit of a shock.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's your work in there, and his work, and yeah, it's just not polite not to tell you to say it right. And yeah, in general, what else would be really interesting is not only the fact that you didn't know, but the reaction you told me about how you guys felt about it. And that's, of course, not associated with any legal stuff, especially the high price, the experiences of opening such a pack and finding a common, because Anson had a lot of comments. I think that's very interesting. How did that make you feel? How did that make Anson feel?
Well, the thing for us that was really hard to take was that there's a provision in our contract that goes way back to the early 90s. Obviously, the relationship between some of the early artists and Wizards of the Coast involved a royalties contract, and so at the time that just prior to to Wizards of the Coast merging with Hasbro, they were doing things to sort of tidy up their intellectual property. So as a business, it's better if you own all of your intellectual property. It makes things more attractive to somebody potentially wants to buy your business and know that you own and control all of your intellectual property. And so in an effort to do that, the Wizards of the Coast offered to buy out the royalty rights from the artists, and so some artists did that. It did actually sell, and Anson was not among them. He chose to retain his royalty rights. But they, around the same time, also renegotiated the contracts. Instead of having a whole bunch of different individual contracts, they wanted to have one sort of governing for continuity's sake. And so there was a period of several months where the artists were meeting frequently with the lawyers and trying to hammer out the terms of the new contract. And they asked for several concessions from the artists, and which in the end the artists ended up giving to Wizards of the Coast. But part of that was that an agreement that if they were no longer using the property, the illustrations, and they weren't making royalties, earning royalties from it, that after 5 years, that the intellectual property would return back to the artist,
Okay.
so that they could do what they wanted to do with it, and for it to be productive. They wanted to keep the assets generating revenue. So if it wasn't benefiting one party or both parties, then the artist could then do what they wanted with it. So
that was part of the agreement.
That was part of the agreement, yeah. And
For me, for you, that's probably does make a lot of sense, because it is Anson's artwork, and then at a certain point, if it's not used anymore, indeed the rights should go back to the artist. I think that's a very common practice. They haven't reprinted it in quite a while, longer than 5 years, except for the 30th, of course. But before that, have you asked them officially to return the rights of the artwork?
Yes, we did. We started a conversation with them in 2016, I believe, and they basically have denied the request to have it returned. And
did they give you any explanation or any reason why?
they said that they were, despite not paying royalties and it not being used in a product, they said because we're displaying it on our website, The Gatherer, they claim that was use of the product. And so I was really shocked.
Yes, I am too, because that's a bit ridiculous. So they used the usage of the artwork on Gatherer as an excuse to not return the artwork to you.
Yes. Yeah.
But they didn't pay you any royalties or revenue or whatever for that usage.
No. And what is interesting about that is that in the contract, it doesn't even refer to promotional use, because it's not really relevant. If it's not generating royalties, then it's sort of outside of the scope of a royalties contract. So I mean, they're free to use in advertising or promotional use, as they see fit. But I would think that use would include a product or a third-party licensing of the art. But I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so maybe I'm not understanding it fully. But that seems reasonable to me. And so, as far as I know, we are the only artists that actually exercise that provisional clause or try to rather exercise that. And so for us, it was as we're still trying to pursue working something out with them, and that was really surprising that they went ahead and published the artwork, because of course once the artwork is published in a product such as the 30th anniversary edition, then of course that is very clear and obvious according to the contract. So it seems like maybe they were trying to hold onto the intellectual property, that maybe using it was a way to and a means to an end, perhaps. I'm just guessing because I don't really know, since they haven't communicated with us. Yeah.
That's what we do here. We just give our opinions, and that's totally fine. And that's of course speculative, and nobody's gonna hold you to your opinion in that case. But I think it's a very interesting opinion, because nobody has talked about that before. Everybody's talking about they want to make a lot of money, but nobody has talked about the fact that maybe they were afraid to lose the rights to their most iconic pieces of artwork, their most iconic cards. And maybe they were afraid losing those cards forever, because it would go back to artists. And I don't know, you say you are probably one of the few ones or the only one that held out that long and didn't give up their rights. But if there are a couple more, you never know. It's iconic cards, it's game pieces everybody recognizes, and I believe if they never would be able to use certain cards again, you mentioned the Black Lotus, but it can be one of Anson's cards as well, of course, it would be a very negative thing for them, because everybody recognizes these cards, and these cards represent the game, and then they don't own those anymore. So I think it's a very interesting perspective. So by printing this 30th anniversary edition, you can't exercise that right of asking the artwork back anymore. Do you still have it? Okay. Do you still have the case like, hey, but we asked before you printed it? Or is that something that's gone now?
Well, I think that it should be a factor, and I'm hoping that it will play a role, because I mean, I know for sure that it at least put it on their radar that, if they're doing this, perhaps other artists might be interested in the same thing, and so they probably would not prefer that not happen, and so they I don't know, like I said, it's a lot of guessing, but it sure appears that they had other motives just by the way they went about things, to not let the artist know, to not include us in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Or the discussion is, I think it's kind of,
Suspicious.
suspicious. It looks suspicious. And, yeah. And
Yeah. It's a real possibility, I think. They probably thought, hey, we could make money out of this, but if their goal was to just secure the cards and maybe make a little extra money on top of it, fine. But yeah, I think it's a real possibility, and it's very suspicious the way they went about it, because they were very secretive about everything. And you learned when everybody else learned, when they made the press release, and everyone was like, what? So yeah, there was no time or no chance to act anymore on it. Are you planning to take action on it in the future?
yeah, we're actively pursuing working something out with them. They have, in the past, they have expressed the possibility of being open to doing a buyout of future royalty rights, and so that could be a possible resolution to all of this. But we have had a couple of bumps in the road as far as getting someone to represent us, because I just think it would be good to have somebody who specializes in intellectual property law to help us through this. So if anybody out there who's happens to know somebody, we're actively seeking representation. So
Yeah, Hasbro, of course, has a big law department, and let's make an official shout out indeed to people who are specialized in intellectual property law. Maybe they can contact you. You guys got a website, of course, so you're easy to find and easy to contact. And otherwise, they always can contact me as well, of course, and I will relay the request. But if there's somebody out there that can help you, let's hope that person makes himself or herself known. That would be very nice. I would also be interested. Yeah, I wrote a couple of things down, but that was a bit of a tricky subject. But if we just again give our opinions about it without telling any numbers or whatever. There was the conversation going on. We're never going to know how many of the 30th anniversary edition have been printed, but you actually will probably know someday, right?
Well, if they follow the contract, then we can expect a royalty payment. Assuming that they follow the contract, then that would typically come quarterly. At least in the past, the checks would be accompanied with a royalty report. So usually a big thick stack of like all of the sales. So we would be privy to those numbers at that time, but of course, I don't think we're allowed to share them. So I'll have to double check on that. But
no,
yeah,
I think you shouldn't, especially if that results in trouble. But if you are allowed to, probably a lot of people would be very interested in it, because then they can't hide anymore. And of course, there have been these hacks, and these are not confirmed. So there are a couple of numbers out there which look pretty realistic. Yeah, it would be interesting if those numbers match up with yours. But yeah, there is a possibility to actually get those print run numbers. I think that's very interesting. So yeah, in general,
I thought about when they went on sale. It was really interesting because I had already had some thoughts and going through my head about why they were doing this and why we didn't. It was such a surprise, and um, and the price point was so crazy. I was thinking to myself that it sure seems like they don't really want to sell this. I mean, it seems like they're not really paying attention to what the players and collectors are saying about this. And I thought maybe their intention was not to sell it really, but just to get it out there and to use the artwork, and for them to have it on sale for just like less than an hour or something.
I think it was like 35 minutes. I recorded it, and yeah, it was not long. It was a lot less than an hour.
To me, that seemed to work with the suspicions that I had anyway. Because if they were trying to get as much money as they could, if that greed was the motivation, then I would think they would have kept it on sale longer.
I agree. It fits the narrative. They could just have had the intention to print it and to secure the rights, and then sell as less of it as possible, so they don't have to pay a lot of royalties to you guys.
Right.
On the other hand, I think it's also a real possibility they didn't want to lose face because the sales weren't that high because people were rejecting it. So there are a lot of possibilities, but it could definitely be a possibility that they just wanted to keep it low to keep the costs low as well, but still now have the right for or to the artwork, which would be crazy, of course, but it would be a very smart and sneaky move.
Yeah, because that's the royalties are the whole reason that that Anson's artwork was replaced, is because they didn't want there was a certain point when they started to feel like as the game was becoming so successful, the small percentage that is the royalty payments, all of a sudden that was a pretty large sum, and other people in Wizards of the Coast, I think maybe some were feeling a little jealous of how much the artists were being paid, and really that came about because they didn't in the beginning they didn't have a lot of startup money to pay the artists, and so it was hard for them to get all these original illustrations produced, and so they started getting creative with their compensation. So it became a stock, making stock, or we'll pay you royalties, and it wasn't something that the artists asked for. It was, they were just trying to make it as attractive as possible to do work for them. And
at a certain point, they thought, hey, this is too beneficial for the artists because the game was doing well.
Yeah, and then it got to a point they're like, oh, well, gee, we could be using that money and, paying the shareholders or whatever. And so they, that was part of the contract negotiations that it was talking about, that where they said they wanted to replace the art with new art, and, Anson was fine with that. And that's okay, because if they phase it out and they use new stuff, then in 5 years, I'll get the rights back, and so it's fine, it's all good. And so it would be important to see them honor the agreement that they made, a long time ago, and just that's all we really are interested in doing, is seeing them keep up their end of the bargain.
Exactly. Yeah. It doesn't sound like you want anything unreasonable, at least to me, and I'm no lawyer neither, of course, but for parties that have made an agreement to hold up their end of the bargain is not an unreasonable request or thought or wish. So I think it's not nothing crazy you're thinking of there. Definitely.
Well, it's too bad because this product could have been a really great opportunity for some of the older artists to be in the exposed to the newer players maybe that don't know about, that haven't seen their art and all that. And unfortunately, though, the way that this is all played out for Anson, it's been pretty disappointing because he's, at $1,000 price point, when people are opening those packs looking for power cards and stuff.
Yep.
They're not gonna feel anything but disappointment when he's, because the answer so many of his cards are commons that, he just imagined them opening up these packs and feeling, not having good feelings associated with it. And so
maybe even indifferent or indeed negative feelings because the pack was so expensive and all you got were bad rares and a couple of commons that are not worth it in their opinion. So I can imagine. So he was really disappointed about the way they presented this.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it's too bad because...
Yeah, that's too bad to hear. Yeah.
I feel like they robbed him of that, but it's okay. So hopefully we can, going forward, get some of this stuff resolved after all of these years. Would be nice.
Definitely finally have some closure and maybe even get the artwork back or at least get them to honor the contracts or maybe negotiate a new buyout of the artwork and the IP rights. Anything is better than just everything being up in the air right now, I guess, for you, because it's been an ongoing process for so long. It must be very frustrating, I guess.
Yes, definitely. And even the matter of artist proofs, a lot of people contacted us excited about the possibility of collecting new artist proofs.
Yeah.
And which we would love to have them. Unfortunately, though, I think if we do receive them, which we haven't had any word from them about artist proofs either, but we may not be able to actually utilize them or sell them until all of this is, has been worked out. So
because it could be used against you as making profit?
Well, it could, if we're disputing their use, their right to use the art.
But then the money of the artist proofs they send you, they could use it against you. Yeah, I get it.
We have to, if we accept the artist proofs, that could be implied as agreeing to their their perspective on things. So
yeah. No, I get it. Do you think there even exist artist proofs? Because it's not an official card. Do they have to make... Did you get artist proofs of the collector's edition?
No. Actually, that's true. He didn't get artist proofs for any of the promotional cards either. So, there's some... I've seen some Llanowar Elves foil.
Yeah.
Actually, it would be nice to have some of those. But
of course.
Because they're promotional, then they don't have to provide those proofs for those.
So if it's promotional items, but the collector's edition was an item they sold, I believe for $50, right? Back in the day. So that was a commercial item.
Right. I don't know why there weren't any for collector's edition or alpha or beta. I'm sorry, there was for beta, but not alpha in collector's edition. So, and then for Arabian Nights either. So
there were no artist proofs for Arabian Nights. No, I knew artist proofs of antiquities, and I think I saw alpha artist proofs on the site, on your site.
We have, what I call them are the first edition artist proofs, which some call beta, collector's edition. That's when the first ones were produced, was with that print run. And so, yeah.
Right. In the beginning, they didn't have any, and that was the moment when you got a couple. Okay, I get it. It's like with the collector's edition, and it's like summing up all the alpha, beta, and collector's edition, and probably unlimited as well, but then with black border. So and like a whole collection of these. I get it. Yeah, I can imagine at a certain point when artist proofs became a thing, they had to think of something. Yeah. But that's interesting as well. I mean, yeah, and you, if they send them to you, you won't accept them. Will you send them back, or will you just keep them and not use them?
Maybe just hold on to that and see what happens.
See how it plays out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I get it.
I remember when I first, I've known Anson for a long time, since 1995. But we actually, yeah.
Because that festival, you look only 27, so that doesn't work. That doesn't add up.
Yeah. No, I'm starting to tell people I'm just adding 10 years to my age now from now on, just because I'm getting old enough that. Yeah. Anyways, enough about that.
Moving on.
But when we started dating, it was I think in 2014. So we'd known each other quite a long time, and I knew that he was a magic artist. I didn't really have any idea what magic was, other than I knew it was a trading card game. And he was kind of funny. One of the first dates we had, he and marketing had an event in Oregon, and we drove down there, and he said, "Oh, will you come help me with this? I have this thing I have to do." And he was really vague about it, and I was just happy to be hanging out with him, so I'm like, "Yeah, I'll go with you." And so he very casually, wanders over to this Grand Prix that was going on, and he said, "Just come with me, and I just need, I want you to just sit by me. I gotta go to this table for a little while." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So he didn't have any stuff with him. He didn't bring prints or, anything like that. And he just clunks down behind that table, and all of a sudden the people start lining up. This line starts forming, people wanting his signature, and I'm like, "Oh, these people, I'm here for your autograph." And he's like, he just acts all casual about it. But that was really...
That's a smart, that's a slick move.
But then he's, so after we were together a little bit, he started bringing over these boxes to my house. And I was just, at the time I was renting a room in my friend's house. It was like a daylight basement, not apartment. It was a room with a bathroom, basically. So I didn't have a lot of space at the time. And he was bringing all these boxes over, and I was sort of, I wasn't really excited about it. I'll put it that way. I didn't realize we were.
It just takes up space.
I'm like, all this junk. Because he's kind of a collectible.
It's a treasure for us Magic the Gathering fans, and for you it was a hassle. It sounds a bit like a wife when she looks into my man cave. It's very recognizable, no worries.
But I remember finally somebody asked us, so do you have artist proofs? And Anson said, yeah. And he told me that's what all those boxes are. And so I was like, oh, they have value. Okay. Well, so I started this process one day. Finally, once I recognized that people were interested in them and stuff. And so I'm not knowing anything about magic. I didn't even know his artwork. I didn't recognize it. I had to read the title of the card to know what I was looking at, saying your vampire didn't mean anything to me and anywhere else or anything. And so I started this big project that took me weeks to complete, of identifying what was in there And so trying to figure out what set an edition, you know, telling fourth edition from fifth edition, the only way you have to look at the date down at the bottom. And so I just got this crash course in his artwork and set identification. And I remember going using like almost a whole day searching for unlimited. I was like, Anson, all of your unlimited creeps are missing, you know, because I didn't realize that
there weren't any.
You weren't supposed to be there. And so I was all beside myself about that. And it was quite the learning curve for me, for sure.
But now you're Magic the Gathering expert.
Yeah, well, no, I am. I can recognize what edition a card is from, and I know his art very well. But
what's your favorite piece of his art?
My favorite of his in Magic is probably Living Armor, which is not
and an interesting one.
I think the art's really beautiful. I love that one and Combat Medic, and both are cards that really don't get a lot of love. They're not well played, but I remember him asking me which one I liked most in the beginning, and that's when I didn't have enough familiarity with what was popular and what wasn't, and what was playable and what wasn't. And I remember we sort of had a bonding over Combat Medic because he told me some of the backstory about it, and I thought it was really beautiful because there's a person, you know, that's a medic riding on this beast, and they're going through the battlefield, and she's looking backwards, and
I'm looking it up. And please continue.
You are?
I have it on top of my mind, and now I want to see it. While
it's a really it's not a popular card at all, but she's looking at, so they're running through the battlefield, and she's going to her target of who she's supposed to rescue, and she's on this loyal steed, you know, this big muscly creature, and who puts his life in harm's way for her, you know. And he was just talking about the loyalty and the bond there between the creature and the medic, and she's sort of torn by the fact that she's having to pass by all these other injured people on the battlefield to reach the person that's on her team, and having a hard time with that, you know, because she wants to help whoever is hurt, you know. And so anyway, I just thought it was a really beautiful story.
It is a beautiful art. It's Fallen Empires, right? I'm gonna put it on the screen. I know the card, but I couldn't get it. I couldn't imagine how it looked like at the moment. But I honestly didn't think it's a she. I always thought it's a he, but it's a she.
Yeah, and a lot of his I guess there's a lot of ambiguity with the sex of some of his creatures, I guess you call them. Guardian Angel from Alpha, interestingly, I always thought it, presumed it was female, because I think it's actually a male.
Oh, we're destroying memories here. I really felt Fallen Angel, and I love that card. I think the bright colors on top of the white make it really pop out, and I love it. And of course, it's one of the first cards we all got when we started. But it's a he. I have to look that up as well. Oh
yeah, that threw me off a little.
That's shocking. But does he create like backstories to all of his cards, or is that something unique to the Combat Medic?
I think for a lot of the artwork, he imagines little stories in his mind because, well, back then there was not all of the description and the continuity of the storylines that you see now, and so that was something that he enjoyed a lot about creating for Magic the Gathering was just the concept work.
Okay.
And he actually stopped doing work for them because the direction that Magic went, where it had a lot more art direction, and he didn't find that as enjoyable for him to work on. He really liked being given a title and the freedom to go anywhere he wanted with, based on the title. Which is how.
Yeah. Okay.
That's how that was done in the beginning. He would call in to Jesper and
What did you think?
yeah, we need a list of cards that they needed artwork for, and he would just choose from the title something that
Whatever looked interesting to him or sounded interesting to him. That's very cool. That's a nice.
So he probably turned down, some of those power cards
Because they were not that interesting to him. Yeah.
he didn't know. None of them really had any idea like what the mechanics were going to be for the cards or anything at that point. It was just a title, one or two words, and he took it from there. And so yeah, once the assignment started coming with 2 or 3 pages of typed text, it took the fun out of his ability to
Be creative, basically.
use his imagination,
Yeah.
and he always strove to try and come up with an image that maybe that the viewer might not arrive at on their own. So he, for example, like Bloodlust, I think some people have mistakenly thought that he didn't understand the phrase bloodlust or whatever, but it is more he wanted to do something that was unexpected, that
Yeah, that's
took in a different direction. Maze of Ith is another good example of that too, where rather than being so literal and, drawing a hedge or maze or, something like that, it's more of the conceptual symbolism of it and stuff like that he likes to incorporate into his work. So
I love that approach because especially you mentioned the Maze of It. I think in one of the most recent sets there is a reprint of Maze of It, and it indeed is a maze. And I was like,
Right.
yeah, the old art looks so much better. So that's exactly why, because it's unexpected, it's different, it's not literally the maze you see, because yeah, that's very easy. Of course, it's a nice piece of art. No disrespect to the artist who made the different Maze of It artwork, but exactly what you say, I really can relate to, like that triggering the imagination. And I told you especially about the piece of art behind you. For me, I had that in my room for years and years, and I was always trying to figure out which part of the painting would fit a certain card. And I think I recognized the Hurled Minotaur, and I recognized the Living Artifact, and I thought the things were like lightning bolts or disintegrates or whatever, but that creative freedom, of course, shows in there as well, because it just triggered my imagination for years. Like, well, what is this? What does this mean? I love that approach. Did they actually restrict that at a certain point, and that's why he doesn't do art anymore? Or is he still open to do art if they would ask him and give him more creative freedom?
And I think that at this point I've heard him say that he's okay with leaving room for new artists to come in and do what they do, because we're always open to doing commission-based work or stuff, but as far as working for Wizards,
I can imagine with all the baggage and it was more like a question, like yeah. And then when I asked it, I thought like, yeah, we just talked about that. It probably wouldn't feel good, even though
Right.
if they would like give him more creative freedom, the whole thing around it, of course, is just not in a good place. So creating art for them in general probably wouldn't feel like a good move or good idea. I can relate, and I understand that. Yeah.
And maybe Anson, he might have a different answer than my interpretation. So who knows? You know, I try and keep open to any possibilities. You know, like there's not necessarily a bad feeling towards the company at all. It's not like that. It's just a little surprised and confused. And I think if I would love to be in contact with them and have some communication and so we're very open and you know hopeful about coming to a place where we can work with them in possibly in the future. But definitely want to build an amicable relationship. You know, I don't. Yeah.
No, it's very easy. It's a big part of both of your lives, especially Anson's, of course. And from everything I hear, there was no negativity, even with the things going on, and all you want is what you and Wizards agreed upon, and I think that's more than reasonable. But for the rest, you both strike me as positive persons, which are absolutely enthusiastic about the community and the artwork, and not only your own artwork, but the other artwork as well, and leaving room to younger artists and so on. And I know you do charity work as well, selling artwork and these kind of things. So I think that is fantastic, and I totally respect that, and I don't feel any negative vibes at all. So that's definitely great. I think that is a nice point. Yeah, we've been talking for 55 minutes. Does it seem that long, or does?
Wow, went really fast.
Oh,
Wow.
that's a good sign, I guess.
Yeah, I'm shocked. Well, you're a pleasure to talk to, as always.
Right back at you. No, last time as well, for the people at home, we had a chat before this one, so we could figure out if there was a click and a connection, because it's not that easy, of course, to talk to people you don't really know and only know a little bit via email. But that, yeah, click was definitely there, and today it was definitely there as well, in my opinion. So thanks a lot for talking to me. And I think what everything you told me, and everything, especially the stories, I love. But I think the perspective on certain things were really interesting. Was really interesting. So yeah, that's definitely a highlight of my week. Maybe for many weeks to come. No, that's great. I'm gonna switch. Sir?
We really enjoy your content too. I just wanted to add that I appreciate all that you do and put into your videos and stuff. So, thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to talk and for doing what you do. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks a lot. I really appreciate the compliment, and I know you are actively watching the videos because you comment sometimes. So I love that, and I always think like, hey, they saw it. So that's very nice. Now, thanks a lot for that. For me personally, I just like Magic the Gathering, and I like talking to people, and not only Magic the Gathering people, of course, but if it happens, of course, to be somebody that has a certain involvement in the Magic the Gathering world, that's definitely interesting to me, because it's been a big part of my life as well. So it has been a pleasure to talk to you, and I think yeah, the only thing I can say to finish the conversation before I stop the recording is what I always say is, Brenda, stay healthy, stay frosty, and I hope I talk to you next time.
Thank you. Stay frosty.